Well, it's that time of year again. Time for the capitalist nature of the American winter holiday season to grasp at us and make us feel guilty for not partaking in Catholicism. I'm honestly surprised given everything that's happened this year. The holiday season is going as full steam ahead as it is. Granted, the market has shifted so much from physical stores and venues to online shopping and at-home entertainment in the last, 10 years that maybe this was inevitable. I think it's fair to say that for as long as Christmas has become a commercially important holiday in the United States, so is the idea of the holiday special. Most films are usually already made with the idea that even if they present commentary on current events, they could theoretically be watched at any time of the year for as many years after it's released. Most films. Not every film is equal, of course, and with the changing of the way we consume media comes an onslaught of new tropes and new styles of filmmaking, but the holiday specials always present themselves a lot differently. Rather than having to be entertaining year-round, they only have to be entertaining enough to watch once a year around the holiday it celebrates. Because of this, companies often see holiday films as a relatively safe investment, as even if a film was a flop financially due to releasing during the highly competitive winter film season, which is the last film season right before the Oscar nominee lists are finalized, as long as it's seen as successful enough to resonate with critics and audiences, the studio will see it as justified since they can re-release the film every year during a seasonal window. As such, you'll often see a lot of holiday-themed films released by independent studios on DVD, as distribution companies will see it as completely justifiable simply because it's a holiday film and someone is bound to watch it. It's no surprise that a holiday as widely celebrated as Christmas is the one that's most popular to make a film for. I can say that for every classic Christmas film, there's at least 10 obscure and usually poorly made ones ready to cash in on the holiday season. And because of this, I've actually noticed a change in atmosphere. I see less and less holiday films actually being released in cinema and more just being showcased at a film festival or direct-to-video through streaming or something. However, Christmas isn't the only winter holiday. Rather, it's just what's deemed the most financially viable to invest in. Several other winter holidays, such as Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, happen around this time of year. However, you'll rarely see a special about these holidays done, let alone done well. Thus brings us to Switchmas. Switchmas, also known as Ira Finklestein's Christmas, also known as All I Want Is Christmas, thing has 5 goddamn titles, isn't the worst film I've seen in my life, but it's probably one of the most incompetent, and I think considering all the man hours that go into making a film, even a terrible one, that says more. The characters are all either bland and forgettable or have hintings of tropes done better by other works in media with actually well-directed staff. The story's kind of an anti-Semitic microaggression, and the funniest parts of the film come not from the actual humor, but the sheer awkwardness of its presentation. The studio behind this film, Von Piglet Productions, are an independent company based in Seattle, Washington. Which makes sense because the majority of the film actually takes place in Leavenworth. Except they never call it Leavenworth by name for some reason. They call it Christmastown, which I think is a moniker the town uses on occasion during the holiday season, but that's not the actual name of the town. I digress. The best way I can describe this movie without going in depth is that it feels like a Dear Evan Hansen Prince and the Pauper holiday-themed AU fanfiction with characters from other teen-centric musicals spliced in, but told in the style of The Room. The scenes and character plot points often feel aimless to the point that moments in the film that actually have bearing on the plot don't seem like they should, and the ones you think would go absolutely nowhere at all. But despite this, I'm going to do my best to recount this film, so hopefully other people won't have to. I've watched it twice as I write this sentence, and if that changes at all during the script writing process, I will just add a counter to the quarter of the video to let you know how many times I'd watched this film and count it. Here it is. Ira is a 12-year-old Jewish child who's sick of all the Hanukkah celebrations and wants to celebrate Christmas for 1 year, much to the chagrin of his father, Jerry Russo from Wizards of Waverly Place. I made that joke once, and honestly, I went into this hoping I could say he's distinct from Jerry because he's a film director, but he's really not. He's really just Jerry Russo without any of the spice. It's just like the same kids media father spiel. So Ira wants nothing more than to celebrate Christmas and visit Aspen, Colorado, which apparently his parents promised him, but I honestly can't tell because Ira's just kind of whiny.
No, we're going to Aspen to see real snow.
However, Jerry Rizzo gets a famous actress to sign on to his porno film, and this family decides to instead send Ira down to Florida with his grandparents, who he hasn't seen in years. Like, literal years. They don't recognize him at all. There's also this terrifying animation sequence when Ira gets off the plane that's clearly trying to be stylized like a Rankin Bass movie, but it's in CGI, and for some reason whoever did the CGI didn't render any of the texture on the character. I presume because it was an independent film and they were likely underpaid for the total, I think, 20 or 30 seconds of animation they did. While on a layover, Ira meets up with Mikey, whose mom literally dumps him off there and bounces out for the entire film. Mikey wants to go somewhere warm for the holidays as opposed to Christmas Town with his cousins, so he and Ira swap clothes and boarding passes and decide just, trade places. And, lucky for them, the flight attendants who were assigned to, escort them to their flight just don't fucking care. They're just too busy kissing each other's faces to care at all. Okay. So, Mikey goes off to be with Ira's grandparents, and Ira to this family consisting of a pro-union punk daughter, a girl with lesbian earmuffs, and this kid who I think was named once in the film, but me and my friends lovingly dubbed him Karate Dog Kid. So the deal with this family is, despite living in a very large house in Leavenworth, Washington, which is a very highly sought-after property in real life, with 4 bedrooms, presumably a master bedroom, and a large open living room/kitchen with a huge window, they're poor, and their parents work all day, but you see, Ira makes them a bit happier because he's Jewish, and well, as we all know, every Jewish person is incredibly rich. I know his father is a porno director, but seriously, they just get away with all this blatant stereotyping, and oh my god. Maybe someone could look past this if Ira had any semblance of being a likable character, but he doesn't. His whole personality is just that he has Christmas fever. We don't know why he wants to celebrate Christmas. They never go, and give him a reason. It's never oh, it's because my family doesn't give me attention, because his parents, it's clearly do, at least partially, and also they celebrate Hanukkah together. Sure, his parents kind of ignore him at this moment, but, it's, made pretty apparent that this isn't the norm. They try to have this growth arc with him where he learns to not be afraid of dogs anymore after being traumatized by a dog biting him. And he has this, Donald Trump-looking fucking scar. But, it's hardly fleshed out at all outside of, 3 scenes. And his whole deal is just that he's kind of a whiny bitch. His parents act like they discipline him, but they don't. They don't. I think I touched the mic. Mikey is meanwhile at Hanukkah with the Finklestein extended family and having the time of his fucking life. He's getting spoiled, spends time on the beach and in the pool in what is clearly not Florida, but who cares? Ira's grandparents love him to death, one of whom is played by Elliot Gould, who I don't think got paid enough for this movie, but apparently he enjoyed doing it. He's just putting way too much effort into it than he really has to, but, on the one hand, that kind of makes it more enjoyable for me, so I'm not gonna complain. I need all the joy I can get right now. Antics ensue as these kids, mostly Ira, celebrate their respective holidays with their SWAT families and slowly learn to, the true meaning of the holiday season or something. Except they don't. They don't learn anything. Ira's extended family kind of mostly gets shafted, which means we don't really see much of Mikey's side of the story. The majority of the scenes just consist of vaguely displayed Hanukkah traditions, Jewish stereotypes, Yiddish words being spliced into casual English dialogue in an attempt to make an unfunny joke, or an unsentimental moment somehow more sentimental. Or scenes of Mikey just acting opposite to how Ira presumably would in this situation, but, they never really establish Ira's personality. You get some of it later throughout the film, but they don't, this film starts just so abruptly. Act 1 of this film is, 10 minutes long, and then Act 2 goes on for fucking ever. There's also a lot of boomer humor in here, this joke. Don't like that. Characters just kind of pop in and out of the film most of the time without any explanation. As stated before, Mikey's mother is absent for 98% of the runtime. I think she got a total of 5 lines maybe. Her screen time is mostly just at the beginning where Mikey's talking to her in the car. And then, like, she shows up a bit at the end, but, like, they make it seem like she's like this overworked mom dealing with divorce, which, like, that could have been an interesting angle to work with. That could have been something that would have been, like, different, but they don't focus on it at all. Mikey kinda doesn't care that his parents are divorced. Like, there's this one scene where he's wondering where she is, but, like, my guy, you swapped with a family, of course. Like, what? What? And, like, there's also a lot of character conflict that goes just completely unresolved. There's a plot point about Mikey's cousins owing the bank on their house mortgage, and how the parents are fighting because the dad's kind of a deadbeat, and the punk daughter who can't get an actual job is spending her afternoons playing guitar for passerbyers for cash, which is probably the most accurate thing in the film, because you see this all the time in Washington. It's like, our economy is so fucked up because the government would rather bail out Jeff Bezos for the 500th time than invest in homelessness. There's another character who's the main actress on Jerry Reese's porno who almost seems constantly, like, drunk or high. Apparently she's one of the few actresses who has actually worked before and after this film. I don't know anything she was in. She just kind of comes off as a dated half-ass parody hodgepodge of Perez Hilton and Dolly Parton. Like, she sets off the whole plot, and yet it's kind of implied that Jerry Russo is, like, bending his will to her needs because she's a huge celebrity in this universe, but then she just kind of stops the film production for no reason other than she failed one line, which I guess is accurate in some cases, but not if you're a woman in acting. And then they also try to have, like, all these emotional scenes. Like, there's this one where the father is, like, talking to Ira on the phone, but it doesn't work because the only time we see Ira's father, he's filming a porno in the background the entire time. It's not actually a porno, obviously, because this is a good Christian movie. But, like, just look at some of these scenes. Like, and then this film takes eventually, like, a complete 180 with its plot, and it becomes about Ira and the lesbian throwing a Christmas play to save the rec center. Like, this isn't Hey Arnold the movie. I'm already disappointed in you by this point. And there's also a scene where they gaslit, like, Ira's grandmother for being afraid of flying and never visiting, and that's why Ira ran away. Like, what the fuck? Like, the dad tries to correct himself, but the grandmother comes over to Washington with them later, so I guess gaslighting's good in this universe. Okay. I almost just forgot, like, objectively, the worst part of this film. So Rich Kerensky here, he has a different name, obviously. It's this. I just started calling him this as a joke, and I can't stop, so fuck it. He's Rich Kerensky. He's the local bully at Christmas Town. He picks his clearly unthreatening dog who just wants to play chase. Like, he sticks him on Ira, which is one of the best scenes in the film, because we get lots of shots of this happy little pupper just running around in the snow, and also by this point Ira has lost any semblance of being even remotely likable, and that twisted part of you is just kind of like, yes, get his ass. And later in the film, Ira and the lesbian cousin discover his house, which is like a rundown place with without even a washing machine. Like, where the washing machine is just in front of the house. And during the scene, Rich's father, who's, like, clearly abusive, throws the dogs out and physically threatens his own child in front of them. And, like, they take the dog in and rename him Mistletoe. And they kind of allude to the scene with their parents, but they never actually say or do anything about this event. This father figure never gets any repercussions on screen. And, like, even though they only vaguely reference this event, like, it's kind of implied that the kids were fully prepared to just take the dog and bounce, like, as though they presume this kid deserves to be with his abusive father. Like, what the fuck? Like, literally, Ira states that he fully intends to take the dog home with him, even though this dog is, like, the only thing that makes this kid remotely happy. Like, and then the girl has the gall to yell at him about how he's being a jerk because he ruined their Christmas play out of retaliation. Like, girl, you were planning to leave him in an abusive household. You didn't call CPS. Like, what the hell? This shouldn't be funny, but, like, this wouldn't be funny if it were real life, but it's a movie, so I'm going to laugh at it. Because I don't know, it's fucked up, I can't help but laugh. Oh god. And like, it's clear that like Rich isn't mistreating the dog at all, like the father is, and that the dog clearly loves him. He was just forced to act out because his father was threatening him. It's, ugh. Oh my god. Yeah, this film's just all over the place, and like, there's two things I would call genuinely good and not just like ironically good. One, the dog is cute. Like, look at this baby. Look at him. Look at him. Absolute baby. This chihuahua here is kind of cute too. Like, just gonna say. And number two is, Spike and Jessica. So Jessica is the only character with a legitimate arc. She's like the punk daughter, right? She's the only person you'll get kind of any satisfaction out of by seeing in the film. Partially because every single line she says kind of is what the audience is thinking. She starts off as this kind of rebellious teenager who hates her family, which perfectly fits her punk flair even when her room decor clearly doesn't. But the film goes out of its way to like soften her a little more towards her siblings, like over the course of it, and it's implied while she isn't employed, she is helping her family get some money by performing Christmas songs on the side of the road, even though her anti-capitalist nature demands she despise the holiday. Even if some of those scenes are occasionally cringy, it's just nice. And like, it's the only thing that kind of resembles a Christmas message, like a kind of be closer to your family thing, I guess. I don't know. And then there's Spike. Spike is a character Jessica mentions in passing first. It's implied he's like her boyfriend. And he later shows up in this scene, performing alongside her, helping her earn money, even has a matching blue streaks in her hair that are the same color as hers. Like, these two are couple goals. And you're probably wondering, what does Spike do that is so amazing? He doesn't talk. He only occasionally vocalizes along to Jessica's songs, but he doesn't have formal dialogue at all. And like, it by default kind of makes him the best character in the whole movie because he just vibes. He's just there for a good time, and like, it's amazing. I mean, like, I guess he does perform the ending number. Oh god, the ending number. So like, Ira does that Christmas play, which his real family ends up attending because the father wanted to actually punish his ass for all the shit he's pulled throughout the film. But he's moved by this crossover fanfic between several classic Christmas stories, including the Bible being performed live on stage that Ira, like, gets off scot-free. And they sing, "Christmas is for everyone, the only number outside of Ira's terrifying animation dream sequences that was written specifically for this film." Before I describe this song to you, we're gonna play a little exercise. I want you to think about any Christmas song, just any song. Now, imagine the song had been reconstructed slightly to contain lyrical references to other classic Christmas numbers. Now, imagine those lyrics were just the most stereotypically Christmassy sounding lines from those numbers instead of any of the heartwarming ones. That song in your head would still be better than this because it wasn't horribly dubbed over by people who clearly aren't the actors. Except Ira, they were just like, yeah, let's let the kid who can't sing go on without any vocal direction or singing lessons. Like, let's do it. And they sing this song. Oh my god. It's not good. It is not. It's kind of... This is like the hardest part of this movie to sit through. Honestly. But thankfully, afterwards, the movie just ends. It just ends. This film starts abruptly and ends just as abruptly as it starts, so I guess good on keeping a consistent tone. Again, like, there's no conflict resolution. There isn't, like, a post-credits scene, and, like, no surprise. Oh god, they had only one animator on this film for those horrifying dream sequences, and by that standard, considering Don Norton probably had to make it in less than 2 weeks in a damp basement, it isn't actually that bad. It's not good. I'm sure Don Norton is aware of this, but I get the vibes. A paycheck is a paycheck. So, you're probably wondering whether or not this film is offensive to the Jewish community. My Jewish friends who showed me this film say yes. And they told me that the film is kind of painfully ignorant at its best and actively malicious possibly at its worst. One of them was concerned that it could possibly actually be used to indoctrinate Jewish children into dropping their own traditions in favor of Catholicism, which, like, yeah, you could kind of see why that becomes, like, problematic. The film also never really talks about the actual traditions of the Jewish holidays and just assumes the audience will know them. It never talks about the hardships, such as the fact that many occur on, like, days which the United States governments do not consider national holidays, which, like, means likely that Jewish people will actually have to work on their extremely high holy days, even if it's considered, like, an offense in their religion. And as stated earlier, Ira's Jewish family is often, like, the butt of the joke. Even ignoring all that, Ira's kind of a terrible character overall. He's selfish, he's only working in his own interest for the entire film, and even when he does help Mikey's family, he's kind of getting something out of it. The conclusion I came to, and one that they agreed with, though, was despite this movie being filled to the brim with microaggressions, Switchmas kind of dodges being a hate crime by the fact that it's so poorly directed no human being on Earth would watch it for anything other than a laugh. And if you can't tell, it's kind of a good laugh. Like, this movie's really, it's kind of a joke. There's, like, things that I have legitimately criticized about it, and I do think to some extent it could be considered harmful. But it's so bizarre and enticing. I consider it the holiday equivalent to the film Shark Tale. Like, it's that special kind of bad that makes it really fun to riff on and watch with friends, and it brings sort of an ironic enjoyment. I don't agree with the sentiment that a lot of these film reviewers who are probably paid off to say nice things about it say about it being a fun family film, because a lot of what it presents to its target audience should be considered questionable at the very least. I think children should be allowed to experiment with their religious followings and be encouraged to explore other cultures, but not in a way that would make them despise their own traditions. I don't really have a way to end this off, so this is Mikey's cousin's house in the film. Me and my friends have been trying to figure out where it is for shits and giggles. We presume it's somewhere around Seattle or Leavenworth. We tried contacting the actor who played Ira, but we didn't get a response. I'm pretty sure if I just drove around Leavenworth, I'd find it eventually, but I'm not a stalker, and we're in a pandemic. So, for now, that will have to remain a happy little mystery. On the off chance that you are the owner of this house, it's very nice. You should consider opening an Airbnb when it's safe again. I think you'd get pretty sweet reviews just based off this large window you have here. Yeah, goodbye.